everybody, and welcome to another interview. Today, I am joined by Tweddell from Cultaholic. Thank you for joining me today.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
My honor, trust me. I've been a fan of Cultaholic since I started getting into wrestling, sort of as I got into that late 2019, 2018 sort of time. And I remember stumbling across Tom and you on a news video and on multiple other things. And then as I was getting into wrestling, and now I'm obsessed with it. So obviously the thing I think a lot of people will know you for is WTF Moments. That very popular series that fortunately now has gone to more of a occasional thing for pay-per-views and things like that. So my first question about this specific thing is, when WTF Moments started, how did it actually start?
It actually was an article on a different website for close to 2 years. I would do Raw, and I would do, it was just Raw, and then Jack the Jobber, who works here at Cultaholic, he would do SmackDown, and there was a third writer who would cover pay-per-views. Then on the comments of the other two lads' articles, there would be like, why is King Ross, the king of WTF, not writing these articles? So I would be in the office and just sort of winding Jack up about that sort of thing, because, gotta have a playful bit of banter from time to time in the office. And then it just, as the YouTube channel started growing, back at What Culture, obviously, they were just adding more presenters to try and beef out the content and whatnot. And somehow it came to be that I was just going to start doing the article for WTF, which I was doing all of the Raw SmackDown pay-per-views by this point, I think. Do that as a video series. And then they were just like, do you want to dress up as a king? Because I think they didn't believe I had the sort of charisma and sort of skill set to carry it off as just being Ross. So no, I'm a very quiet and reserved person for when a camera's not in front of me face. And I think I was proven, if you go back and watch that first one, I'm like a rabbit in the proverbial headlights. So that's how it got going.
So obviously with that, a lot of things came out of that, and a lot of famous things now synonymous with Cultaholic came out of that. So when you're watching a pay-per-view, would it be that would you watch them live at the night? Obviously, we both live in the UK, so if you're not watching this from the UK and you live in America, you're very lucky, because when I was at school, luckily that's not a problem now. I couldn't watch them live, and I get them ruined at school for people who don't even watch wrestling. They'd be like, "Oh, did you see this person came back?" The only one I ever watched was Royal Rumble, and I went my whole house up when Edge came back. So I remember, I'm going to ask you about your reaction to that now. So with the live reactions that you did, obviously with lockdown and things, they've been changed. Hopefully they'll come back. So with that, is it literally you would sit down and get recorded your reactions to the pay-per-view and then just get edited down, or how would that work?
Exactly that. Pay-per-views would start 1 a.m. or midnight here in the summer, early summer. So we would just sit down, whoever's on the video, as soon as the pay-per-view starts, just sit there and react to it. And then an editor has a horrible job of cutting down that 3, 4, 5, or if it's WrestleMania 35, 12-hour pay-per-view. And that's just how it is. It's just, that's just our genuine live reactions to what's going on. So it would be a bit crappy if we didn't do it live,
You just clip and sit there. Obviously, one of the most synonymous moments with them videos is at WrestleMania 34 with was it 33? The Ronda Rousey match. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. And you seem to get a little bit excited when Ronda came into the ring. I was watching that back the other day, and I was thinking, wow, I've never seen someone so passionate about Stephanie McMahon getting her arm broken. And I remember seeing that, and that was sort of one of the first videos I stumbled across. I was like, I think the combination of all, because it was you, Sam, Tom, and Adam for that video, was it?
Jack and Adam would have been,
Jack and Adam it was, yeah. And I remember sitting and just thinking, I was about 14 at the time, and I was thinking, I sort of started move on from YouTube, from the childish stuff, and then started moving on to wrestling, stuff like that. I remember thinking, these guys are like what I want to watch, and that they seem very lovable and very friendly and very funny. And I remember thinking that, and obviously you came across like that, and all the other guys came across like that, and it was just, from a fan's point of view, it was very nice to see. It's not fake, and it's not you pretending to be friends and you'll walk off camera and hate each other. You're actually friends and talking to Tom as well. I found that out. So when you moved to Cultaholic from the place that shall not be named, did you obviously from at that place you were part of WCPW? How was that like being
Kind
a
of.
part of that at the time?
It was very strange for me personally, because obviously when it got announced, first and foremost, I was very much against the idea, thinking because it's a common misconception from some people still that it was actually like the YouTube presenters booking this promotion. It wasn't. It was two or three people behind the scenes with one guy in particular whose dream it was, I think, to be a sort of wrestling promoter and live that dream out. And he obviously made a fair bit of money doing what culture and building that up. So that was him living his dream, I guess, with some people around him. We were the faces of that. It was a very weird thing. I regret it deeply because obviously when we started, I was one of the commentators with Simon Miller. I just deeply regret getting involved. I was just a fish up a tree, completely lost, completely out my depth. I always say that, like, with the commentary side of things, it would have been nice because I was on holiday for the 2 weeks prior. Halfway through the holiday, I got a phone call saying, Ross, we come in on a Saturday morning and shoot 4 episodes of commentary. I was like, I get back on the Friday night, Saturday morning. Can I not have time to research? Like, no, I need to get it done. So I was like, didn't have time to research. So that's not ideal when you're, someone like, for example, Gabriel Kidd, who wasn't, too far into his career. Obviously, he's doing great stuff in New Japan now. He wasn't too far into his career, and obviously me not being the biggest sort of stalwart of British independent wrestling, I had no idea who he was at the time. And that, if you have no idea, you can't be good at commentating on somebody you can't tell the story for example. So, from my point of view, it was very weird. I was sort of happy to dive out of it when I did. I didn't want to do it anymore because I felt like I was taken away from the show, and not improving it and not sort of adding to the stories that was being told by the wrestlers in the ring. And then it was just weird to watch it sort of grow from the outside because I wasn't involved with any of the booking or any of the sort of putting together the shows or whatnot. I would go along and help with the sort of setup of the rings and the chairs and whatnot and do all that sort of stuff and do some bits of content with the wrestlers like Primate and the Swords of Essex back in the day and stuff like that, which was fun to do. And, yeah, that was fun because obviously I'm really shy and reserved as a person. So
that completely surprised me, if I'm honest.
Oh no, it's
the things I've seen of you, but I sort of massively respect that in a way that you keep yourself to yourself, and that's how I sometimes feel with certain things, and I think that's quite a lot of the things you spoke out about in the last. I'll come on to them. Are very, very. I have a lot of respect for you and for a lot of people that you've come out and said the stuff you've said and dealt with the things you've dealt with. I think that's quite admirable.
Thank you very much. Means a lot. But yeah, it's a bit different when it's just like me and a camera because I'm just presenting to that camera and that camera is not a real thing, if that makes any sense. I can be a bit more outgoing and flamboyant, whatever you want to call it. But going back to the point, it was obviously I this might just be my sort of perception of like the imposter syndrome I spoke about in that video with Tom, but I always got the feeling that when it came to the YouTubers, there were certain groups of the wrestlers that really looked down on us and really didn't make us feel welcome. It just was like, oh, these YouTubers won't take this seriously, that sort of thing. So trying to get like walking up to wrestlers and going, hey, do you want to do this silly bit of YouTube stuff? It was a really daunting prospect. So it was nice to see people like Primate and people like the Swords of Essex just sort of see what it was for what it was, a silly bit of nonsense, and it helped build their character. And sort of Prince Tamina as well got involved early on, and he's told me personally it helped him out in terms of what he was doing in WCPW. So it was nice to see them get involved, but very daunting trying to get people involved, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I completely understand that, and that is actually really interesting for me, and I'm sure if anyone's watching this, which hopefully they are right now, will find quite interesting because I'd never knew that. So I'm going to go on to something a bit away from wrestling. If I'm correct, you're a Newcastle fan.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So am I. So
oh yeah,
I am big Newcastle fan, season ticket holder from when I was about 6 till 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was a season. I could only afford one when I was like, I used my student loan actually. The 12-13 season through till the 15-16 season. Then I stopped going. Then I went back for the season. We're in the Championship. And then ever since then, I've been to one game because I'm just sick of Mike Ashley. I'm not going to give him my money.
Ashley out. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I've not been to a game for a year and a bit now. That's mainly because my dad used to take me and he moved away, and also I could have gone, but I'm fed up of Ashley. And obviously today we've signed Joe Willock on a permanent, which is massive for us. And obviously with that, I just thought it'd be a bit interesting to mix up with the questions and ask you some Newcastle questions. So obviously you say you went to them games in them sort of years, and that was the Cisse, Denver Bar, Cabai, Pat Ben Arthur days. That was about the same time as me, really. And I look back at them and think really fondly of it. And the atmosphere is like nothing else. How did you feel about that? Obviously being a bit older than me, a lot older than me back then, so I would have been like 8, 9, I think, at them times.
Yeah, I was 20 when I started going. When I first got my season ticket, sorry.
Yeah.
Because I got hooked in by the 11-12 season where we finished 4th, and I was at uni. Just had no money, so couldn't really go to many games. So I just sit there and watch them in my flat. I used to live with a Liverpool fan, and they weren't doing too well back then. I lived with a Sheffield United fan, and they were in League One back then. I lived with a West Ham fan. They were in the Championship back then, and I lived with a Man United fan. And the way that season ended, that was fantastic because they, of course, lost the league to Aguero and all that sort of stuff. So I got roped in by that team. And as soon as that season ended, I was just like messaging a few lads going like, we've got to get season tickets now, haven't we? Under the presumption that Mike Ashley would see us finish 5th and think, oh, we're that close to the Champions League. And if we spend a bit of money, we can get in the Champions League. Then imagine all the faces around Europe that could see my Sports Direct logo all over St. James's Park. So I got roped in by that naively. That summer, of course, we spent, I think, 6 million on Vernon and Anita, and that was it.
Because that's going to improve my team, Vernon and Anita.
Yeah, I like Vernon. He was a good footballer. He came from Ajax where they play football on the ground, and he was playing in Alan Pardew's team where the ball was in the air. Mike Williamson, hoof it up the pitch from Mike Williamson. You can't play sexy Ajax football when the football's in the sky. So and then obviously you don't strengthen the squad then, and then we had the European campaign on top of, which we did quite well in. We got there was the quarterfinals, wasn't it, against Benfica? Yeah, I went to those games as well. That was heartbreaking the way that ended.
Portugal. At that time, about 11 or 12, sat in a hotel bar full of Benfica fans with a little Newcastle shirt on with the rest of my family. And I remember so fondly of that. I remember we lost. So we were winning into the second leg and we lost 2-1, if I remember correctly. And I remember they were just so nice. They didn't like celebrate massively until I left and they probably went mental. But I just will always remember that. And hopefully we can get back there this season if we can sign someone.
Not a chance. Not a chance in hell. The best Newcastle can hope for is what they did last season, which is maybe squeak into 12th or something, whatever it was.
I mean, the thing is, I saw a stat the other day about Ashley about how, yes, he saved us and all this and all that. But since that, he's not actually put a penny of his own money into the club. And then the whole thing of him selling with the Saudis and stuff, which I wasn't on board with at first. But then, obviously, with it coming out, and I now if it was again, I would be like, yeah, I want it. And with the financial fair play, which was what we were told we weren't allowed to buy them for the same amount of money we were going to get bought for, Man City can spend on Grealish and possibly Kane, and that just infuriates me now.
That's the only part that infuriates me is the fact that obviously Man City can go and do what they do, and I know Everton's got the transfer restriction on them, but they got taken over by a really rich fella.
Yeah.
And from that point of view, it does seem unfair. But then again, it's that where the money comes from is a bit of an issue for me because obviously we sit here as wrestling fans and lambast WWE for going over to Saudi Arabia and doing business with them. So if I was sat here going, oh yeah, money Newcastle, I'd be a bit of a hypocrite, wouldn't I? So it's frustrating on one hand because Man City can do it. Why can't Newcastle? It's just obviously the Premier League looking after the bigger teams and crapping on us, little Newcastle up in the desolate north. Yeah. But then again, it's like I would honestly prefer if the money came from elsewhere. But we'll have to see what happens. It's going through to January, isn't it, with the arbitration thingy? So we'll have to see what happens.
It's been pushed back. Past January now, I think.
Past January.
It's been pushed back from this January as well.
Right.
It's now April 2022, I think.
Oh, is it right? Oh. Honestly, I stopped keeping up with the takeover. I just got sick of it. Was always around every October, wasn't it, for the past 3 or 4 years? Yeah. Amanda Stavy's going to get Newcastle sold, and then it would go to nothing. So I just gave up. I gave up reading it.
Yeah. I'm gonna move on back onto wrestling stuff now because I imagine
All
that's
right.
what most people are here for. I want to talk about your little um thing for Tamina and how I think that massively is another fan favorite thing about how since the days where the Tamina train and it is now pulled out and it's in full force as now a champion. What was your reaction to Tamina winning a title after the amount of years she's got in the company, and why did you sort of pick her as sort of a cult favorite?
Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I heard it up until years. The reaction after winning the title all those years. Any more to the question?
Yeah, all them years, and why did you pick Tamina as sort of a favorite to sort of run with on WTF moments and sort of push into sort of a thing?
Well, you've made it sound quite romantic at the start there, saying like
I
I
do
fancy
that.
like a
My words
little thing
weren't
with
great.
Tamina. I like clarify, it's not that sort of thing. No, I got behind Tamina because I see someone who has stayed the course in WWE. I see someone who's been underutilized in WWE. I see someone who can fulfill a role in any women's division, and she never got utilized. And when it looked like she was going to get the big thing, I remember the first women's tag team elimination chamber where herself and Nia in there. And I thought that was a great team. That's just to sort of look at them, sort of harken back to the sort of the twin towers of the late 80s in WF, and that sort of imposing look about them. And it did stuff with Bailey during the lockdown era last year, where she was screwed out of a title match.
Oh. You there, Ross?
My internet gone off.
Yeah, we're back.
Hello?
We're back. We're back.
We're back. My internet
back.
went off there. Sorry. You'd
Right.
think it'd be better internet here. I'm in a professional office setting, for goodness sake. But yeah, after seeing like just her stay in the course and trying, obviously she was on social media last year, just trying all these different gimmicks and whatnot. And then obviously it was clear that she'd been told to take that down off Twitter. We haven't got any plans for that sort of thing. And it's just like, you can tell she wants to be better in WWE, but they won't let her. And I like that sort of that underdog thing, and obviously people sort of latch on. Everyone's got their wrestler who isn't one of the main ones, but you support no matter what. And Tamina's filled that role for me, and it obviously just the sort of Tamina train stuff on the video. I don't know where it came from. It just sort of happened in a video once, I think, off the top of my head, and it sort of gathered pace like a train would do rolling down the track. So, and it is good to see what she's doing now as part of the tag team with Natty. I mean, they're hamstrung being a women's tag team in WWE because it's clear the company just don't care about women's tag team wrestling. As sad as it is to say, we just look at all of the tag team title reigns apart from maybe Sasha and Bailey's second one, where that was good, but the rest of it's been pretty sort of like an afterthought. So just doing as best as she can.
With all tag team wrestling, I would say in WWE. If you look at what other companies do, not just AEW with tag stuff, I think that it's so much better. And I've opened my horizon to other companies this year, mainly in the lockdown. And mainly AEW, and obviously that's difficult in the UK. So I sort of watch it on the Fridays, which I need to set a series record because I always forget, but I'm going to do that after I finish this, to watch. So my phone's just gone off, so I'm just going to get the questions up. I'm just going to ask you a question I've asked everyone. You can be completely honest. It's not a thing. Do you know what psoriasis is?
As far as I'm aware, it's something to do with your skin becoming sort of red and inflamed in some sort of way. It's just about as much as I know.
You're somewhere correct in that. Obviously, I have it here at the moment. My mum has it a lot worse than me, and after this, she'll be on for a couple of questions and things. And throughout every interview with Poppy and with Jamie and with other people, she'll be here after. Any questions I can't answer, she'll answer, and we'll hopefully get a little so you can find out about this, which is the reason I've done this. I'm going to ask you about Straight to Hell now, your YouTube series that you do. You get guests on, ask them 3 things that you would send to hell that are to do with wrestling. Who has been your favourite guest that you've had?
Oh, it's hard to narrow it down to one. They're all good in their own way. Obviously, the one that comes to my mind straight away is the Aiden English Matt Raywalt episode, because he was just I thought that was the first episode where I managed to get some good answers and sort of good scoops, if you will, of sort of backstage going ons in WWE. Obviously, I got some stuff before, but I felt that was the first one where it was just like a constant stream of them throughout the video. So that was a good one. I'm thinking of Tamatonga. He was an excellent guest. I'm thinking of David Arquette was an excellent guest. I haven't really had a bad one.
I was trying to think of a question. I was like, who was your worst guest? And I was watching something about last night and thought, well, there hasn't been a bad guest. So,
there was one, but they since got involved with the whole speaking out thing, so we took that episode down because bollocks to promoting.
I saw that and didn't want to ask about that.
Yeah, bollocks to promoting them. So yeah, that would be the worst one. But I think everyone who knows the series will know who that is.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about the UK independence in a minute with a couple of things. I've seen a couple of other things. So I've asked Tom similar questions, but I'm going to see if there's different answers from you. What's your favourite moment on screen at Cultaholic?
Your favourite moment on screen at Cultaholic? Bloody hell, that's a massive question. I know what it was at What Culture because it's still my favourite moment as overall as a YouTuber.
You can say that one as well.
Oh, we were doing a live reactions. It was myself, Jack, and Adam at What Culture for I think it was Roadblock, End of the Line 20
or the other one.
Adam Pacitti. And Adam Pacitti had this ridiculous snowman costume on his legs where it had a carrot where his dick would be.
Oh dear.
Which I think his dad bought from old Nige Pack. And right at the start of the stream, because it was near Christmas, Adam had a bottle of Bucks Fizz. I don't know if you've seen this before. He had a bottle of Bucks Fizz, and Adam opened the bottle of Bucks Fizz, and it went everywhere, and it just sprayed him right in the face. Huh?
I've never seen that.
Oh, I'll share it on Twitter soon if you follow me on Twitter.
I do.
It's a recurring thing. I'll share it on his birthday because it's still my favorite moment as a YouTuber. It's just sort of like the bottle just sprays up in his face, and he's just drenched in Bucks Fizz. It's proper slapstick basic bitch humor, but it honestly had me in stitches for upwards of 20 minutes. We had to leave the studio and just go outside for a second to sort of compose ourselves before going back in the studio. But in terms of Cultaholic, even though it was my punishment, I guess it's got to be the Penny video if you saw that one, the phone call one, just because it was down to Adam because he sort of wrote the cue cards with the innuendos on, and that was so well done. So I'd probably say that video.
With punishments, what's been your sort of, apart from that one, what's been your least favorite one to do?
Least favorite, getting buried alive, because that's
I watched that and I was like, how have you done that? I couldn't have done that.
Genuine phobia of mine was getting buried alive, so that one straight away. And in terms of best, you mean like the easiest one to do?
Easiest and most fun, I would say.
Well, most fun's got to be the Penny one again, I guess. The most fun punishment that I've done.
I mean, fun and punishment isn't two words you put together, really.
I was going to say, I'm trying to remember what I've actually done. It's been that long since.
The cake escape one because you just got to eat cake.
Got to eat cake, yeah. I'm trying to think. Can you reel any off? Because I'm having a blank. I'm throwing a blank here.
A bit. I think maybe I can't really think of it. You've not actually done. I mean, the tar one is one that comes.
The tar was awful. That was pretty bad.
That was fun.
No, it was pretty bad. I got hosed down like a dog by my girlfriend there. It was quite a humbling moment after somehow getting away with not being fined by Uber because I ruined a guy's backseat with I had to change the clothes with me, but it was just everywhere. When I came to changing the clothes, it got all over the new clothes as well, and it just ruined them as well. Yeah. So that was pretty bad. I'm trying to honestly think, and I can't remember. It's been that long. Sorry,
you haven't done one in a while, have you? Actually.
Well, no, it's been obviously, we've not been able to do them with lockdown restrictions and whatever the government is saying over here in the
Adam, who got locked in a room for 24 hours.
Apart from him, yeah. So, but I can exclusively reveal right here, right now, that the sort of reactions. I mean, they came back for the last pay-per-view. We couldn't do live reactions, but we did do the punishment with Andrew taking the chops. And
I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
I sort of want to know how that sort of came about, because obviously you say in the video you didn't know what Money in the Bank chop was going to be. Was that true, or was that a little thing? Was that you literally said, "Oh, do you know what? We're just going to get everyone in the office to chop him"?
Well, yeah, but when the company first started, we would have a Patreon vote, and there will always be 3 different options for the punishment, and we'd always because we've been doing this now for sort of going on 6 years in terms of punishments. So it was always becoming harder and harder and harder to come up with 3 different pay-per-view options each time. So we got to a point where always the third option would be insert pay-per-view name chops. And then if that one won, which it never did for whatever reason, we'd just sort of make it up on the fly. And that's exactly what happened there. So we just thought, we'll just make it Money in the Bank chops for Money in the Bank. And and it was up to me just to come up with the punishment off the top of my head, and I thought I want some money off
it was
Andrew.
a very good video.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse though, because obviously with the restrictions at the time, that was a difficult position to be in. It was like we wanted to get the video out so people still cared, like, you know, about Money in the Bank and stuff surrounding the pay-per-view. But we were doing sort of a staggered entry back to the office for everybody, so there wasn't too many people in. So really, even though he took a good slap off myself and Adam, not so much everyone else.
Brutal. I visibly went, ooh, when that happened.
It could have been a lot worse for Andrew. That's all I'm saying.
So what were you saying about the live reactions coming back? Because this is going to go out on the 21st, on the day of SummerSlam. And I can sort of guess where this is going.
Yes. So myself, well, I'll be there. If Andrew wants to come and have another go, if he's not battered and bruised and beaten down enough, he can come and have a go.
Currently? Who's champion?
There is no champion. There is no champion. We retired the old title. Adam Pacitti is the last ever cultaholic heavyweight champion. So there's nothing there at the moment. I've had a bit of work going on in the background. I can't really reveal too much about that, but yeah. So the championship was retired with Adam Pacitti. He will be the last ever cultaholic heavyweight champion. That was sort of fitting for him. But there will be reactions. I'll be there. It just depends if Andrew fancies having a go. I hope he does, because honestly, after the story of him and sort of wanting to work for Triple Jump, and then sort of Sam grabbing him and saying, "No, you're good. You're going to be coming to work for Cultaholic," because of course he applied for Cultaholic first as well. So he sort of came in kicking and screaming. I don't like that story. So to put him through even more punishment would be an absolute delight. I'm not going to lie.
I think with all the new presenters, with Tom when he first came in, that was quite mixed. And then with Andrew, I think it was quite mixed. And now I think the promo work everyone does, even though it's just a little silly thing with the storyline with Adam and Andrew, I loved it. I thought it was better than what WWE had done on Raw for a good 3 years.
I mean, that's the sort of thing, like that's Adam at What Culture back in the day. That was the sort of thing. I think that was the sort of main catalyst, obviously outside of lists, in terms of the personality-driven stuff. Yeah. That series was like the driving force behind the success of that YouTube channel, I think, in terms of the personality. So to try and sort of, I mean, it's something we've sort of stayed, the storyline stuff is something we've stayed away from since Cultaholic began, mainly because of, you know, there's 4 of us at the start initially doing all of the jobs. So we didn't really have that much time to sort of frolic about and do storylines and all that sort of stuff. So now we've got Andrew in, who people for some reason seem to like, for even though he's a terrible, disgusting human being. It's nice to sort of bring that stuff back in. Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask you about a video you did with Tom. You might, if you don't want to go into it, completely fine, I'll move on. But I just wanted to say, from my opinion, so obviously you took a break last year and came back, did a video and opened up about mental health. And I want to personally thank you for that, because as someone who in the past struggled with mental health a bit and things like that, and from bullying and everything like that, I think seeing someone, because there's often stereotype for whatever reason that is, that men can't talk about mental health and men can't open up about their feelings and things. And for someone that I look up to and think, yeah, he's a really nice person and it comes across on camera, it's really nice to open up about that to however many people and openly say he struggled, massively helped, I think, not only me, but a lot of people.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I had a boatload of messages along those lines last year, and it was overwhelming. It did feel like important to do that sort of thing, to try and, because I felt really guilty at the time taking that time off, because obviously everyone's got their own struggles. Like, it's not just me. Everyone who works here will have something going on somewhere in their lives that's a bit of a difficulty.
From Andrew, he opened up on the 100th episode of Desert Island Graps with Tom, which I now have to watch with a box of tissues every time I watch them, because they're going to make me cry at some point.
Yeah, so honestly, I did feel really guilty about taking that time off, but it got to the point where it had to be done. And I didn't know what else to sort of say. I was just like, I need to just sort myself out. And thankfully, I was able to, and thankful for everyone here for sort of understanding. And I don't think they've held it against me. They're keeping it to themselves if they did do. But yeah, it just felt like an important video to do after taking that time away, and just sort of like, because we know like people are invested in us for whatever reason. They sort of like personalities and whatnot, and so to sort of have a relatable situation for someone who, for me, who obviously portrays someone in WTF and on reactions and stuff like that as someone who's completely different to the real person. Because if I was like me in real life, no one would watch. I'm that boring. So to sort of like peel that back and just be me for an hour, whatever it was with Tom, was it was necessary. Now, as I said, I got a lot of good messages and thank yous and that, which I didn't expect, but it was nice. I got like the best thing about it was I got 3 emails saying that video. I got 3 different emails saying that video prevented 3 different people from committing suicide, which it's proper heavy stuff, and I still, I'm not quite sure how to react to that, but yeah, if they're out there watching this, thank you very much, because it did honestly like validate that sort of decision to do that video, because it was, people like, it was a nerve-wracking thing to put out there, but ultimately, you're just telling the truth, aren't you? Just saying how it is. It's just the stigma needs to just go away. And
It really
I
does.
think over time it is doing so, and videos like that, obviously, with the subscriber base we have, I think it sort of helps.
I wasn't going to go into this, but I'm going to just mention something personally, if that's all right with you. If you want to cut me off and you're bored at any point, just let me know. It's a quick story. So back when I was at school, when we first come back, and I started to discover I had psoriasis, and it came as a bit of a shock to me, even though my mum's had it and genetically it's a thing. I never thought I'd get it. I never thought it'd be a thing where I'd have it and it'd be an issue. And I was really, I'm self-conscious as it is. Just ever since in high school, I got picked on for whatever reason. And I always felt like I couldn't be myself. I had to I didn't really talk that much. And then I just sort of kept myself to myself, came home and was myself again. And I found a couple of friends that maybe we were in a group that some of the people in there I didn't like, but there was a couple of people in there that really helped me in a way that I could feel like I could talk to them. And there was one issue in a food tech lesson where I first had psoriasis, and it was there. It was a bit worse than it is now because I hadn't really got treated, and I had some there, and I had some in my ear and things. And people didn't know what it was. And that caused a lot of hurtful things to be said, a lot of really nasty things, because people didn't know what it was. They just thought, I don't know what they thought it was. So then I'd never done this ever. I just walked out the class. I walked out the class and I went to my head of year and just said, wasn't head of year, it was like key stage office, and said, I can't do this. I need to go. And they didn't understand what it was. And that's what sort of made me realize I wanted to do this. And then obviously I put out a post on my Instagram and it was about I wrote it for 40 minutes, wrote about everything. And then I realized people don't know what this is. So they just think, ooh, this thing, I don't know what it is. I'm going to stay away from it. Is it contagious? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? And it was really hurtful, because it was like, I felt like I couldn't be open about it and talk about it, because that's not the way it is. And I've written off high school as something that I'll look back at fondly at some moments, but other moments I'm just going to forget about it. College is starting. I'm going into radio and audio, which I found out I could do yesterday because of my GCSE results and things.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So I did that, and then now I want to be as open as I can about it. Half the reason I'm doing this, and that's why I want to thank you and all my other guests that have come on, that help your platform and your viewer base, maybe hopefully come over to this and see that, learn about it and know what it is. And if we can help 2-3 people see someone and be supportive to them instead of being not very nice to them, it would make me feel happy, and hopefully that I didn't get put in a position where I had to sit at home for 2 days with my family who support me massively, and I can never thank them enough for that, about struggling with it. And obviously it was around that time that I watched the video back and realized that it wasn't just me. I'll let you go in a minute because we've been here That's for half an hour. But one of my final points is, so with working cultaholic and all the wrestling you watch and everything like that, with the releases, and obviously I've actually got a couple more questions I've just thought of that I forgot to write down. But if you have to go, that's fine.
No, go for it.
So I said to Tom, I've mentioned this. With the Keith, Don't Forget About Keith song, if I'm correctly, it was you with Tom.
Yep.
And that obviously got played out NXT, and Beth Phoenix
Yeah.
gave you a little notice on commentary. Obviously, yesterday, a video came out by Keith Lee, which I watched on the way back from a meal, and I was like, wow, that's a lot worse than everyone thought. So when you did that thing on NXT, did you think it would go that far, and is it something that sort of sticks with you as a standout moment from doing what you do?
I don't know, because it's really hard to judge when you do silly stuff like that. Like sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted here. When you do silly songs like that, because I've done 3 or 4 now in the history of Cultaholic, and some of them take off. Like I did a Christmas number for Rusev when the channel first started, called the 12 Days of Rusev, because he was back
just quickly, but while you mentioned that, I'm just going to mention a funny story that I just remembered when you said that. So I was going to change my phone. I wasn't going to Spotify or anything. And I remember they were like, what podcast do you listen to? I was saying Cultaholic, because I absolutely love that podcast. It's every Friday. It's sit down, watch that, watch Love You Bye with Tom, chill out, play a bit of FIFA, then watch SmackDown. And now I'm going to come on to Rampage in a minute, and what's hopefully have happened yesterday when people are watching this, and a certain person with a lot of personality. So with that, and I remember the first thing my stepdad played was the Christmas song, and my mum and the stepdad looked at me with just a look of, really, this is what we brought up.
I mean, that's the desired response, because don't forget that was I'm assuming you're referring to Jack and Sam's Christmas song. That was a punishment, so it had to be sort of naff in its delivery. So I'm glad I got that reaction, because hopefully they should be embarrassed about what they put out. But it's just hard when you're doing those sort of things, because I did one this Christmas just gone about Drew McIntyre, and that one didn't take off at all.
Is that one on Spotify? Because I've searched them up.
No, I don't think so. I think the only one we put on Spotify was the one that Jack and Sam did. I think that's right. But yeah, I never
YouTube, the Drew one. I remember it now. You said that.
Yeah, I never expected it to be played at Full Sail. It's weird how, as I say, like certain things take off and certain things don't. But yeah, it was a crazy time, just getting a few tweets, waking up in the morning, obviously after that week's NXT, seeing me and Tom, who were had a few shinies in the office at like 3:00 in the morning, whatever it was, watching the pay-per-view, just having to sing a song about Keith Lee. And obviously it's great to hear as well that Keith's doing well after what's been going on this year. It's just, God bless that man, and God bless Mia Yim for sort of taking care of him. And
yeah,
I think did she catch COVID from him, and that made him...
she put a place up in the Royal Rumble, and I am a massive... I wasn't really a fan. There's a couple of interviews you've done that put me into sort of fans of them. And when this whole thing happened with Keith Lee, I've always been a big fan of Mia Yim in NXT and Keith Lee in NXT, and it's a little thing in my family with like my auntie and my granddad and people about whenever we mentioned Keith. I was over there when Keith came back on Raw, and I got told off because it sounded like someone was getting strangled when he came back. That pop was pretty good, and yeah, that song is pretty big in my memory.
Yeah.
So with Rampage coming up yesterday, or it starts tonight, depending on how tired I am, I'm going to watch SmackDown, and then I don't know how I can watch Rampage. I think it's on Fight.
Oh, yeah, it's on
Fight,
Fight,
for that yet. So, yeah, hopefully, yesterday, Mr. Phil Brooks will have turned up at AEW. Do you think it will happen?
It's got to happen. There's no maybe about it. There's just a sort of, obviously, the Chicago time with the arena. Then you think back to that episode of Dynamite where Darby Allin was saying best in the world. They then went to the crowd where they were lingering on CM Punk chants. I think that was deliberate.
Yeah.
You got a little reference that MJF made later that night about obviously starting the same sort of promo like Punk did with Cena and the pipe bomb.
Yeah.
There's so many sort of references in there that if they don't, I dread to think what might happen. It'd be quite interesting to see.
If he doesn't debut, it could be the downfall of AEW. And I'm a massive AEW fan, right?
Yeah.
But if they do that, I will be... You will know, because I will talk about it after this.
I mean, to be honest, it's reassuring to hear Tony Khan in the press, I think it was yesterday, saying, I think everyone knows what to expect from that episode of Dynamite. So that would indicate that he's got Punk signed.
Yeah. Obviously, with SummerSlam being that the next day, which will be today. So hopefully I'm all right. This is getting played midway through the day. Hopefully I'm all right. Hopefully we've raised a little bit of money. Hopefully we've got a few people watching this. And I just hope it happens because I never got to see CM Punk ever. And I'm going to ask one more question because I know we've been going for a while. With your job, have you been to many WrestleManias or SummerSlams or Royal Rumbles or whatever?
I've been to 2 WrestleManias. When we were at What Culture, we got flown over to see WrestleManias 32 and 33.
So with that, because I'm going to my first live event in Newcastle in September. Hopefully, if people get vaccinated, I might be vaccinated by the time this goes out. Hopefully I am. Well, the first one anyway. So what would your advice be for someone going to an event like that?
A live event is very different from obviously a pay-per-view or a televised event. What you're going to see is just a series of matches where the wrestlers are a bit more laid back and not so sticking to the script and like, we're on TV, we must do this now and this then, this there. It's a lot more laid back atmosphere. It's obviously a lot of fun. The wrestlers, obviously, I think I'm right in saying the wrestlers enjoy performing at live events more just because the sort of the chains are off more, so to speak. So you're just going to see a series of matches with the wrestlers having a good time, and don't expect to see anything monumental. Obviously, they save the title changes for the live events for big ones like Madison Square Garden and stuff like that. So don't expect to see a pay-per-view event. Just expect to see a fun night of wrestling where the wrestlers are having a ball.
What I am hopeful for, that I know is not going to happen, but is literally on my bucket list of life, is to see Edge wrestle live. And I know it's not going to happen in Newcastle, but until it gets told to me that it's not going to happen, hopefully at this point, I've mentioned this to Tom as well, there has been brief talks of going to Hollywood Mania. And hopefully he's still going then and I can see him wrestle live.
I think he will be still going then the way he's going. He's in obviously incredible shape and doesn't like he's missed a step, has he?
No, he doesn't. And obviously with the reports of CM Punk, he hasn't missed a step. Is there anything you would like to, that will be out by then or is out now, that you would like to promote or let people know to go and check out or whatever?
I'll just say, just go and have a look at Cultaholic Wrestling on YouTube, youtube.com/Cultaholic.
I'll put a link in there.
The link is in the description. We are a pro wrestling YouTube channel. We also have a website, cultaholic.com, where you can find all the breaking news and quizzes and other fun wrestling stuff. We have Twitch, which is twitch.tv/cultaholic. We do all sorts of stuff on there, not just pro wrestling. Anything you can think of, we do on that channel.
FIFA stuff, because I remember that was brought up. Or is that sort of...
I do it every Wednesday at 1 p.m. It's on there.
Oh, that's really embarrassing.
Yeah. It's all on demand. Don't worry about it. Go and watch after this if you want to. We're on Twitch as well. We've obviously got podcast feeds on Spotify and Acast, wherever you find your podcasts. I think that's all of it.
Patreon, I think.
Patreon as well. We have a Patreon if you've got a spare few ducats and fancy supporting people who need them to keep the lights on and stuff like that. No pressure, though, of course. No pressure. That's patreon.com/cultaholic. So thank you for reminding me of that.
With some of the money I got from my GCC stuff, going to get some Cultaholic stuff to wear now. I've got 2 interviews, so I'm going to hopefully get a shirt arriving for now. I'm wearing it now, hopefully. You'll see that in a minute. But also, I can say now, thank you to WrestleCrate, who you were involved with, if I remember correctly, that have very kindly sent me out a package to open now. So I want to thank you, Ross, for spending some time with me to talk and chat. I really do appreciate that. And I will pass back to myself now to open that crate and answer some questions you guys have got. Thank you for watching.